Good afternoon and welcome to the Westport Board of Health August 4th, 2025 meeting, which I'm calling to order. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, this meeting is being recorded. And please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We move on to the Director of Public Health written report. Any questions from the board members on that? None, Matt. Matt, why don't you give us your verbal updates?
So we got upcoming blood drives. The following blood drive schedule has been coordinated by our public health nurse, Linda Pierce, in partnership with the American Red Cross. We have Thursday, August 28th at Whites of Westport from 1 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Wednesday, September 24th, 2025 at Whites of Westport, 1 to 6:30 p.m. And there's one scheduled for Tuesday, November 11th at Macomber School, but that time is to be determined at the moment.
Okay, that's Veterans Day, so it's a holiday?
Yeah, Linda is trying to coordinate this with the Red Cross because we questioned the date.
Okay, all right, well, it's far enough away.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're getting closer to electronic permitting for the Board of Health. I was going to be meeting with the electronic software company on Wednesday the 13th to go over the process and a launch date, but you know, there's a lot of work that goes into it for us in terms of preparing the permits, making sure they're correct, and getting them onto an electronic platform. You know, it's going to take a lot of time, my time, Nancy's time, Pat, to be able to do this. And frankly, we're not ready. We don't have the time or the resources to be able to get this going. I mean, I know we've been trying to do it off and on, you know, for a couple months now, but it's not getting any better workload wise. And to be able to, you know, designate me or Nancy, you know, to these projects, and it's just, it's hard to do. So I'm asking our board here, the Board of Health, if I can request an extension, because it was just on a grant, and the grant's only to a certain point, but I think if I heard Michael correctly, there's can be extensions that can be requested. So I want to reach out to Mike and ask him if we can request an extension until September of next year, just to give us time to kind of get through this process, and give us some time to do that. So.
Yeah, I know we're already short-staffed with the workload. We've asked for a part-time clerk in the past and haven't been able to. The town doesn't have the resources to support that, but there's nothing worse than doing a project like this sort of on the fly, half-heartedly, or not half-heartedly, but half done. You know, if you can't do it well, it will just make it more challenging both for the staff and for the public. So I think we really need to take the time to make sure it's you know, properly aligned, that the permit forms are electronic, accessible, and so on. And I know we have a lot, probably we have the most permits, I think, different kinds of permits of any department. So I would support that request.
I just want to add to what I said we also are in the process Pat and Nancy are learning a new accounting software that's coming in right now. There's a new web page starting, which is, we're trying to learn that and try to figure out, you know, what's different than what we have now. And then our scan files is a new program that goes along with that. So we've got all this stuff hitting at one time, and it's just really stretching us thin.
I know I've heard from you that there have been some, you know, it's stressing the staff, so.
I mean, it doesn't sound like there's the kind of grunt work that, you know, like I could do, for example. But if there is, then we should talk about it.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and then Don has offered to step in and do some things, but there is, you know, potentially some, you know, filing, some basic stuff, but this stuff that we're talking about here is learning new software, and it's something that we'll be implementing on a day-to-day basis that
Right.
Although we appreciate the help, I just don't know, you know.
Yeah. Well, just want to make the offer.
Okay.
So would there be, and how do the rest of the board feel about supporting that request? I certainly would.
I move that we support Matt's request to, or support Matt to ask for an extension, because we don't know that we'll be allowed it since it's grant funded, but
Yeah.
to
At
move
least
to,
ask.
yeah.
Second.
A motion made and seconded to authorize Matt to request an extension for the permitized project. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous, thank you. Okay. Anything else in your?
Nothing on that except for the director approved plans.
Okay, we'll move on to that.
All right, we have a 4-bedroom new construction on a 20-acre lot on Sodom Road for Jesse and Kelly Roderick, utilizing a stone bed and a singular. It has been through Concom. We have a 3-bedroom repair on a 34,000 square foot lot on 34 Tickle Road for a Robert Cody, and that one has been through Concom as well.
No deed restrictions or anything special required, okay?
Nope.
So I move that we endorse the director approved plans for Sodom Road and 334 Tickle Road.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the above mentioned plans. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous, thank you. Next would be the agenda.
Yes, minutes or not.
Minutes, yeah. We have the minutes of July 21st, 2025. Any questions or concerns about those minutes?
I have none.
None?
Okay,
Well,
so I
we'll find
move,
out later.
what's that?
The minutes are the minutes. Nothing.
So I move that we approve the July 21st, 2025 minutes.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of July 21st. All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous, thank you. Okay, moving on to other business. The next agenda item is to approve Catherine Cabral as a shared community health specialist for the Health Collaborative. Matt, I'll have you open up the presentation on that.
Yeah, so we've been, on the hunt to backfill Gabby's position with the collaborative, and we got a couple of resumes, and this one seemed to be pretty good from Catherine Cabral. She was working for the city of Fall River as a regional inspector, so she has a lot of the background inspectional knowledge that we're looking for. So I think that's a plus to get somebody with even, it's a little bit of experience, but experience nonetheless. And she also has some experience in the with Bristol County Elders and the South Bay community and some of the housing authorities, and also High Point Treatment Center. And the reason why I'm saying all this is we have 2 full-time positions. We have one that's a half-time inspector and a community health worker, and we have a full-time inspector. So right now, the biggest need for the collaborative is the full-time inspector's position, and we're actively seeking another full-time candidate for the full-time position, inspector's position. So Catherine expressed interest in moving into the half-time position if it becomes available, if we hire another inspector, and she seems to have some, background-based knowledge for that community health worker inspector position, so it might work out if we were able to get in another 40-hour-a-week employee for the grant to fill the inspector position, so. But overall, I think, this would be a good pick to start.
You interviewed her?
I did, both Olive and I interviewed her, and it was a very good interview, and yeah, there was no, she's gonna need some training for, according, Fall River wasn't big on sending their people out to get the certifications, but I have a different way about doing things, which is she'll be getting those certifications, right away. as the classes become available. So,
And she has a bachelor's in, and is looking for a second bachelor's, working on a second bachelor's. Okay. Any questions or comments?
No, I'm glad you found somebody in short order. That seems so
Desperately
qualified.
need the help, so.
Yeah.
So what we're looking for is, I mean, this person would have to be appointed by the select board, but they need to know that we endorse the candidate for this position. So I take a motion to that effect, and then I'm going to let Matt text the select board, because their meeting's at 6 o'clock, so they're aware that we have voted.
All right, so I move that we endorse hiring Catherine Cabral as a shared service community health specialist.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to recommend the hiring of Catherine Cabral to the select board. All in favor? Aye. That's unanimous. Thank you. Great. Let's hope we get somebody else for the next position. Okay. Next agenda item, proposed policy about the bedroom definition, bedroom count for, this is relative to accessory dwelling units, those since the new state law passed. We did develop this policy a couple months ago, and there were a couple of edits that board members made. We incorporated them, but never brought it back for a formal endorsement and sign off for the board, so it's in the packet to sign off. That finalized copy policy is in your packets. Any questions or discussions? I know there are some nuances around that have come up in some recent situations that we will discuss at our working meeting, because there may be some ways to tweak our local regulation, and we want to, there's a bunch of topics related to the sort of inner workings that we have to follow up on next week. So, but in the meantime, we want to endorse this for signature. So any questions or comments?
No, yeah, I mean, Matt and I talked earlier about what you were, or at least I think it was related to what you were discussing, and circumstances where something is new construction versus not new construction. But I think just in terms of the way this is, the policy is focused on defining bedrooms and counting bedrooms. I think it's fine to limit the scope of this to that, and then if we want to do something related to how the ADU is applied to different kinds of septic projects, we could do that separately.
Yeah, I think we need further clarification in that realm, but this is pretty clear. Matt did a good job of putting this
it'll
together.
be helpful to people.
I would take any comment?
Nope.
Okay, I would take a motion to formally approve this policy, or essentially we voted to approve it in June, but just to reiterate so that we have a final copy to sign.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to officially endorse the bedroom count policy relative to ADUs. All in favor? Aye. That's unanimous.
I got a question. Can it be approved with an effective date of June 2nd?
Sure. I think I kind of alluded to that.
Yeah, but we didn't say the date. though.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so
Revise the motion.
addendum to my motion that the effective date is 6/2/25.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you. Thanks for the clarification on. Okay. Back to the agenda. Okay, moving on to board member updates. Dawn, I'll start with you.
Okay, so tomorrow is Police Night Out. I encourage everybody to attend because there's going to be a number of community representatives with tables, and one of the community representative with a table is going to be the Opioid Settlement Fund Advisory Committee. There will be some giveaways. I want to encourage people to come, because if they come and fill out a survey, they will receive a gift certificate for a small ice cream cone at either Woods, Handy Hill, or Village Pizza. So our goal is to get at least 50 people to complete our brief survey, which is basically, you know, how can we spend this $317,000 to help people in Westport, and also that the projected amount is over $1 million for Westport by 2038. So what are the best ways for us to spend the money? So that's what the survey is. It's getting community input. And that is from 4 to 8 p.m. tomorrow at the back of the old high school. And there's going to be lots of fun stuff. I understand there's going to be a bouncy house for little kids, and there's going to be rec department is going to be there doing some fun stuff, and then of course the police are going to have representatives there talking about the stuff, the wonderful stuff that they do. They do have a group that goes to visit people in their home after an overdose to help provide support and give them some resources with a social worker. They go with a social worker. So I think that it would be helpful for people in the community to know all the good stuff the police department does that they may not have any idea. The other thing is that the Shorelines column is done and should be in this week's Shorelines.
Great, thank you for writing that one.
Is it limited to one survey per person?
Yes, it is. It is. But if you have a family and you've got a mother and a father, they can both answer and get to. And I do have other stuff for the kids, but teens can also answer. So we're welcoming teens to come and answer as well.
Board members are not eligible for the 3
I'm sorry, that's not.
I think it's under $10. We're allowed under $10.
Yeah, it's not there. So it's based. We need community input. I don't care what board you're on. We want your input.
No, I mean health board members.
Yeah, that we can't get the ice cream.
Well, I just gotta think about that. Okay.
That's all right. From our vast salary, we can pay for our own ice cream. Okay.
So that's it from me.
Okay, Phil.
So this is kind of a cut to the chase report back, and there's more context to it, but I think we're going to talk the bigger context maybe at the working meeting. But at the last meeting of the ZBA on the Pine Ridge Estates project, I think it was anticipated that a draft comprehensive permit would be voted on by the ZBA. And it turned out that for a variety of reasons, which is the part I'll kind of skip, that draft is being revised, and that revision includes the issue that we've been talking about the perk rate waiver, and then a revised version will go before a meeting of the ZBA later on this month.
Okay.
And I talked to Matt about discussing this at the working meeting as to how it all played out, and which I can talk about now if you want, or if there's time or whatever.
You have a few minutes. I mean, I think it's in the hands of the ZBA at this point, right? So.
Yes, it is. But yes, I mean, if we didn't, I'm hoping this time, which we didn't the last time, we'll get a copy of the draft before the meeting. And that was part of the problem, a little bit. And so, if we don't like what's in the draft, then, I can go to the meeting and say we don't like we don't like this. We want to change it. But
isn't it up to the ZBA members? What role do we have to say we don't like your comprehensive permit proposal.
Well, just the part related to our waiver,
Okay.
you know, well, without getting into all the administrative kind of issues that led to this, is that it kind of turned out that the permit contained from the town council had a waiver of, a total waiver of the denial of the perk waiver just on its face. And we had proposed a conditional waiver that is, you know, which said they had to apply the 30 inch per minute or 1 inch per 30 minute standard to the existing site, and then if that didn't turn out, then they had to look for alternative sites, and then that alternative, the alternative that was closest to 30 would be the one that would proceed.
But didn't we propose that as a conditional permit if they did not feel comfortable denying the that waiver for that? That's the way I remember it.
Okay, well, that's why we need to talk about it at the meeting. And then the applicant came up with a alternative, with an alternative which was to leave the, to allow the Title V standard to apply to the existing site, and then, but a lower standard for the other sites should the site not be able to accommodate a slower perk rate, which everyone, not everyone, but which the applicant agrees and understands, you know, that it's, I mean, how they're doing this is a little odd. I don't know, and maybe it's because they don't plan to actually implement this. But what did come out of the discussion was that because it was a waiver issue, that, and that we could control the implementation of the perk rates, that the final decision was going to go back to the board, because you remember that our regulation has its own exception, and so so it was reasonable to assume that if they didn't find a smaller perk rate, an acceptable perk rate, they would apply for an exception. And whatever we decided about that exception would go back to the ZBA. And that's what town council thought was appropriate, from what kind of came out of the discussion, because it was ultimately the ZBA's determination as to what, you know, as to what happened with a local regulation and the waiver. So it's a little bit of a complicated stew, but so that's where it is right now. Their redraft, and the chair of the board expressed his preference for what he wanted, and so anyway, so we'll have a chance to talk about it and figure out what we want to do based on the alternatives before the ZBA meets again.
Do you know when their next meeting is?
Somewhere between the 20th and the, I could look it up now on my phone, but
Okay.
it's before the end of the month.
Okay. Well, we do have a working meeting, and we have the 18th.
Yeah, that's what, I think that's going to be fun.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So, yeah,
Any other updates?
that's it.
Okay. I don't have anything earth-shattering to share, so. the 4:30 is a discussion, not a hearing, so we could begin that. Mr. Rodericks is ready.
I'm here, yes. Alex, go ahead.
Can you pull up another chair?
I don't mind standing if it's okay. No, chill out. Good afternoon, folks. Mark Roberts, as you know, from Analysis and Design Engineering. I'm here to talk about the proposal of having a barber chair set up at the residential portion of 930 American Legion Highway. That is the multi-bedroom residence that's on the east side of the property. I have the plan of record here. We just completed through the board the upgrade of the system for that property, where we put a denitrification system in. I work with Matt to establish a design flow for the properties, which evolved, I'll say, over time. And then this topic had come up, and I thought it would be best that I provide the technical information. Alex here is the tenant of that property who wishes to commence with his barber chair on his property that he rents. The property owners are also, should be here over my shoulder. So what we've got here is, when the system upgrade was designed, we captured all of the design flow for each individual unit based on Title V regulations. That came up with 1,442 gallons per day design flow, large.
Yeah.
We put a large denitrification system in. There's a public water supply well on the property. So that was another area that we wanted to be prudent in how we went about siting and designing the septic system. So since that time, I worked with the tenant for the hair studio, not Alex's proposed barber chair, but that Light Hair Studio, who does dyes and coloring of hair. They currently have a non-hazardous industrial waste holding tank, and they were wanting to, and we subsequently filed through the DEP to have an additional holding tank installed, to be installed. It's been approved, but it has not yet been installed, to take further flow from the currently 3 chairs and then a sink to increase that and do some internal plumbing and put a larger second industrial holding tank in series with the one that's there now. So that design flow actually would be in reality further reduced. The other piece of information that I wanted to share with the board is, because it's a public water supply well, there's an annual statistical report, an ASR, that comes with all public water supply wells. So I have it here with me today, the 2024 ASR report, the entirety of the 12 months of the year. The total amount of water pumped from that public water supply well, the only water supply on the property, was 162,000, let's just say, over the course of the entire year. When you average that over 365 days, that gives 443 gallons per minute, which is
Per day.
per day. I'm saying 440 GBD, right? Gallons per day. The design flow of the system is 1,442. So what we're currently at, prior to the installation of the second holding tank for the hair studio, is we're at about 31% of the design flow for the property. That takes into account the retail spaces, the hair studio, the nail salon, etc. That's there. So I thought this was a rather unique situation where we spent so much time and diligence on design flow and making sure that we had adequate design flow per Title V for the system. The installation of this barber chair seems to have negligible impact on the overall facilities, combined facilities for it. And further, there is no intent with the chair, the barber's chair, to have a sink for washing hair. So there will be, and is not planned to be, any hair washing in a sink, as all of us know. You go in, you got your head and you do that. There would be a bathroom and a toilet that would be set up for the people that might be coming in. And also adjacent to the chair, sinkless chair, there would be a hand wash sink that you could wash your utensils or your hands in between those studios. So Alex is here to describe any other natures of his intended operation of that proposed barber chair. And then the tenants who are supportive of this and encouraging my support are also either here or will be here momentarily.
Okay.
So I know we only have a few minutes, so I'll stop at that point and entertain your dialogue.
Okay, I'm going to turn first to Matt for his input.
So everything Mark said is true. My concern is that we typically don't add flow in this nature. We add flow by what's enumerated in 203, and that's how the septic is designed, is based on the flows. Like Mark had said, we went through every resident and apartment and business and came up with, it was 1,442 gallons per day. But now I think they're asking the board to add flow, but not based on 100 gallon per chair, but based on water flow usage.
Correct.
So I'm not, it's something that that's not how we typically design things and do things, and I'm concerned that, about setting some sort of precedent. And I think, is this in an IWPA?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's so if you're not adding flow because of the water usage, I guess it wouldn't be technically deemed as adding flow. But if you add 100 gallons per day and expand the system, can you add flow in that IWPA zone over there?
Well, technically, this being a repair in an IWPA, we were trying to control the design of the system to what was there right now.
So those are my concerns about just the way that they're asking to have to have this done.
Well, of course, the design flow is based on, projection. I mean, it's based on Title V, but when usage changes, like, you can't guarantee that the flow will stay the same
As things evolve, and there's usually some flexibility we have if a retail space becomes an office space, that changes the number of gallons per day per square foot, et cetera. But I think the key point here is I agree with what Matt said, and that was the initial discussion I had with Matt before coming here to the board. And we got 31% of the design flow of the sewage disposal system, which is outside of the Zone 1 ARC. All that was complied with. But we're at 31%, which is really far below what we did when we over-designed the system to the Title V requirements. Now, a barber chair is 100 gallons per day, but the presumption, I think, with that Title V recognition of 100 gallons per day is that there's normally a sink and
hair washing.
For the hair washing, which is not a part of the proposed activities.
It's going to be like a simple cut kind of place, in and out.
So that's why I thought it was sort of a unique case for all of the reasons Matt and I mentioned to want to come and get a perspective. And I respect the precedent-setting elements of this, but I think this is something that warranted a case-by-case, at least discussion for 10 minutes with the board.
Okay. Board member?
I'm interested to hear what Phil has to say.
We always are.
Well, because we
I'm like
cannot
the
deliberate.
lead off batter.
Appreciate his input.
Here's the thing that stands out for me in Title V in terms of my reluctance to go along with what seems on its face a reasonable assessment of the problem. And I think it's unusual in Title V to be as specific as this is. And it says, this is on the flow design criteria. It says actual water meter data shall not be substituted for the design flow criteria for the activities listed in 3022 through 3025, and the only exception to that is for schools. There's a kind of a separate process that they use for figuring out design flow in schools. So basically, Title V is saying that you can't use actual water meter flow as an alternative to the design flow of 100 gallons per day, even though what you're saying is, you know, that because there's no sink there. And then from the practical point of it, just in terms of the precedent part of it, is that not that these requests have come along before in quite this way, but it really, part of my concern is it really gets down into the details of exactly how you're setting up your shop in this case. And I don't know, do you have a sink separately for people who want to have their hair washed? Occasionally I've had my hair washed when I go get a haircut, that's pretty rare.
Yeah, so, some places use portable things, but
Right.
that wouldn't be part of, you know, what I offer customers.
Right.
There wouldn't even be an offer to the customers of washing hair. You know, I
Right.
work at a barber shop in Taunton right now, and
Yeah.
we don't wash hair at all. You know,
Right,
which
right. So it
the
depends.
basic, you know,
But,
basic
right,
thing, but,
right.
yeah.
But even though you don't have a sink next to your chair, let's say you decide, well, I'm gonna put in a sink, you know, in the other, where all the other chairs are.
Yeah.
And then arguably the barber who's in the other building, the customer said, want my hair washed? Well, let's just walk over and
Yeah.
wash your hair over here, you know? It's that kind of thing, or that someone comes out and there's this slight variation, and then we're getting into everybody's kind of business model, and how come you let this guy do this? Well, I'm kind of like this. I may be a little bit different, but not so different. And so one of the things I think the board as a whole tries to do is like really be consistent, so people don't feel like we're playing favorites. And the one other thing I have to say about it is, just as far as the regulations go, that, you know, Title V has, you can get a variance if you want, but the standards for a variance are very high. You have to show manifest injustice, basically, in order to vary a written, you know, and it's just a little hard, given what the regulation says about ignoring what the actual water use is and going with the design.
It's by the title, not by the.
Yeah, you have to see what is the manifest injustice. Usually we do that where, you know, we're really trying to solve a problem. If we don't solve this problem, then someone is not going to be able to use their property, you know, at all.
Yeah.
Or, you know, that there's no other engineering solution to get to solve a problem. It's not so much that, you know, where I wish we could accommodate small businesses, you know, to expand their business, but it's kind of not written, you know, it's restrictive in that way. So that's just, that's how I come to this.
If I may make a
Yeah.
point, I'm very familiar with that phrase.
Right.
I've been through it with Matt and with other boards to discuss that. I had a situation in another town where they had a rod and gun club.
Yeah.
Where there was nothing clear in Title V that defines the design flow for such a facility.
Right.
And I believe you will find embedded within there somewhere, probably.
Yes,
very close,
yeah.
that says if there's no designation for that type of facility design flow, that you could use metered water.
Right. But that's not the case here. The case here, it says $100 a chair.
100 gallons.
100 gallons a day, sorry, 100 gallons a day.
So I could also, if I may, one more brief point.
Yeah, that's,
If I look at that, when they say a barber shop at 100 gallons per chair, the presumption there is or is not, or what is it? Is it a synced chair, as in the light hair studio adjacent, or it says a chair?
well, it's been my limited experience, that whoever wants to get their hair washed goes to the one sink. I've never been to a barber shop that has a sink to wash your hair in. they have, and I think beauty salons are the same, right? Like you go to the place where hair gets washed, then you go to the place where whatever is gonna happen to your hair happens. And so that's why I was giving the example that, you know, that it could be, you know, an additional barber being able to serve more customers by having their, by, you know.
There would only ever be me.
Yeah, yeah, well, and that, yeah, and so I don't, I don't know that, I don't
You know, in the 8 years that I've been a barber, I've only washed hair.
but I probably talk it out, as I usually do. So, I don't know what the other board members think. So,
you know, a lot of that resonates in terms of the precedent, like, you know, it's challenging. The one thought or idea I have is, can we get, and maybe you can approach DEP and get guidance for, you know, does this type of proposed setup, I don't believe meets the barber chair definition or the way you've designed, the way you've established it in Title V. If DEP agrees that this can be a facility, not a facility listed, you know, use some other language, then maybe we can use the metered flow, that exception that you're talking about.
yeah, I mean, we could impose a condition, I mean, if we want to go down the path, we could impose a condition saying you can't conduct, you know, hair washing down here. If that's what we want to do, that's what I'm saying, if that's what we want to do.
Not enforced.
Yeah, that's the, you know, because
This is separate from the salon, you know, completely
Right,
separate
right,
space, and there
right.
wouldn't even be the room to wash it. I mean, I'd have, you know, the
Yeah.
sink is gonna be a hand washing sink, I'd have to have some in the, you know what I mean?
right.
I like
Yeah.
that idea though of getting more input from the DEP.
Because we don't have we just have short narrative here, but we don't have the layout or anything that would document that this is in a separate space. And I'm wondering if there's a way to,
Well, so there are a couple of sinks in layout, but I don't think they're necessarily set up to wash hair, sinks. They're-
right, no, this is the bathroom.
Yeah, but then
sink, and
there's a
this
sink
is
here for
the-
washing, which is good, or shaving people.
And that's a requirement, the
Yeah,
sink
yeah,
in the
exactly.
barber shops.
Exactly, yeah, so, you know, I understand that. I mean, it's, I mean, you know, just to repeat myself, it is, a lot of this, for me, rests with the language with, you know, says you can't use actual water meter data if something they have assigned a specific design flow for. And so we're kind of stuck with that unless, you know, unless you would come in to get a variance, and then I just think the standard is really high to do that. And so, but I think if DEP has a different view of it,
As I think about that, and I am, if they were to say the 100 gallons per day may not be applicable for a non-synced shear, even if they said it was 10 gallons per day, as Matt pointed out, it's still an increase in design flow. So I think there's little to gain to the basic point that I think Matt was making, but my point was that increase in design flow is still nowhere near the type of 70% surplus that we have for the overall combined design flow of all of those facilities, multiple retail, commercial, and private residences. So I told you it was unique enough to want to chat a minute, because it's food for thought. So I respect your time, and I have nothing else to say.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any, you know, if we can get some guidance from DEP that would,
Okay?
indicate that this is not a facility that's equivalent to the barber chair situation because it's no sink. That's the only thing.
And before any of this, we were up hard on the nitrogen loading limits for the well.
I'm sorry. Oh, yeah.
We were already up very hard for that area,
Mm.
and what we had existing, which we, had an obligation to fix the failed system, so.
Right.
that, we've been down that path before as well.
Any other thoughts or ideas?
No, I mean, I don't feel happy about it. I understand that it's frustrating. But I think our hands are kind of tied at a certain point.
Yeah, unless we get different guidance from DEP.
So if I was to take further action, that might be something. I
Yeah,
could do.
yeah,
Yeah.
I like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And the tent.
yeah.
The tent.
And, yeah, I mean, and, yes, I mean, maybe barber chairs are the type of use that are really, distinct from all the other uses, that all the other activities that are given design flows here. It's just kind of opening the floodgate to say, oh, I guess they don't really care about what the existing design flow is. I'll come in and stick a water meter on here and show that I'm not using enough water, and therefore, I want to expand my operation, and that's what I don't want to face that, having to do that, The nursing home person comes in and says, well, this or whatever it is. The hotel says, look, we're not using as much water per room, or the restaurant. We don't use as much per chair as it says, so now we want to add chairs.
Do you think that the fact that the other facility on the property has put in an application, is in the process of installing a holding tank to take out, another 33% of that flow into the overall system as well? Do you think that's a pertinent point, Phil, or?
Good question to ask DEP,
I was
since
just
it's
gonna
their
say,
tank.
We're getting way into weeds that we don't.
I mean, I see what you're, yeah, I mean,
So,
yeah, I mean, if you were making the case that you were diverting flow to comply with the regulation, and that opened up more design flow for the septic, so to speak, part of it, rather than the industrial waste, so it's like kind of like an industrial waste kind of thing.
it is
Yeah.
non-acid.
So maybe they would say, well, okay, in that situation, you can adjust the septic flow for the industrial waste flow.
It's worth the question.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in, appreciate it. Okay. I'm not clear on, the agenda's timing is, I'm not clear. Which one, on our agenda it says Sean Leach for 147E Cabinets Neck is next.
Yes.
And the tight tank is at 5? Okay.
Yep.
Because the documents have it.
Yeah. No, but on the agenda is the right order.
Okay, so let me go back to the agenda so I call it correctly. Okay, I am calling the variance, is this an alleyway or variance? The hearing for 147E Cabin's Neck Road, owned by Roland Sullivan. Roland, sorry. L.E. With Sean Leach or somebody else representing. This is a 2-bedroom repair with Elgin on a 3,045 square foot lot called Teeny Tiny Lot. Okay. Introduce yourself and you may begin the presentation.
Alrighty, my name is Garrett Malampy from Northeast Engineers. I'm here today for the property at 147 East Cadman Neck Road for the repair SDS plan. We are proposing a B43 LP leach field with an H20 septic tank. As I said, this is a repair. They're also proposing a well on site, so we'll be taking away that existing well. The variance is listed. We have 3 different stages. So we have a variance set for the setback distance from the leach field to the private well, setback distance from the septic tank to the private well, setback distances from foundation slab, and setback distances from property lines. Here is the butter notification. This was sent out to all the butters here, and here are the green cards. I have some that were mailed in and some that were they didn't end up showing up. So
Take those. Thank you.
you guys have the butter notification on hand, right?
Yeah, I don't think we do, actually. All set?
All set.
Okay.
Okay. And we're talking about 147E, because the plot plan is for 147F, so just want to make sure.
Yes. E.
Okay, that would be helpful in the future for the right plot. Okay, and then turn it over to Matt for his report.
This plan has been going back and forth for some time now. But for the most part, I think it's been addressed, but I last minute, I think Phil had identified something that I really hadn't had a chance to look into. So Phil, if you don't mind, I'll have you talk about it.
Okay, so, and this is, I think, something that simplifies some things, which is that when you were looking for local upgrade approval waivers and you requested those for the setback distance between the septic tank and the well as being 75 feet, it's just 50 feet
In Massachusetts.
in Massachusetts. Okay, so there's a couple of those that do not require local upgrade approvals.
E and D.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, and this is a little, and then the question becomes, so there's one that is, it looks like, it's just a quarter of an inch less. There's one that's 49.8, right? So that's like,
Couple of inches.
that's, I consider that a roundup. I don't know how the other board members think. If you call that 50, and out in the field, I wouldn't have a problem with that. And then the other one for the, that is like 6 inches or so, the question is whether or not, and this is in
Well, that's
distance.
6 feet.
Huh?
6
6 feet, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, 6 feet. And that was in relation to the proposed well. And I'm just wondering, again, whether or not, because this is a little bit of the way that that section of the regulation works, is, well, can you move the well? And so the question is, would moving the well an additional 6 inches, northeast, I guess, or whatever, eliminate the need to waive that? Or would that put it in proximity to,
Shifting
across the
well.
100-foot line?
Correct. Yes, that would push into.
I don't know, I can't tell. That, it doesn't, so, but I don't think we would have a problem approving that. But, so again, so the way the regulation would work would be saying, okay, if you can't move the well, then we have to go to the full variance of it, because it's not a local upgrade approval, because the provision says you cannot be less than 50 feet from a system, which at least I think includes at least the tank. The two parts of the system that have specific setbacks in the regs, which is the tank and the leach field. So if you could move, and then I guess we'd have to decide, I think you would need to, for me, to demonstrate that you couldn't really move the well the 6 feet without tripping another setback in order to get the variance.
Okay.
Because then it would be manifest, because the standard again is manifestly unjust, and you could say, well, basically I can't move the well because then I would be closer to the abutter's septic system. So that's, whereas this, so we could say, okay, well, that's a reason. Anyway, that's my view of it. I mean, other than that, I think we could definitely go ahead and approve the plan.
Okay.
So, is that something you can tell on the map?
So we can't move it over to the left. There's a septic cover right here. So pushing it 6 feet over to the west would be inconclusive. You couldn't do that.
Are you talking about the well?
I'm talking about moving the well. Moving the well
Well,
6 feet.
So moving it to the west would be, we couldn't do that.
You could not move to the west.
Correct. Yes,
Okay.
that septic cover. It would be very close, but
Well, I don't know how the other members feel. Maybe it's okay, just to.
so we have our full line sleeve throughout the whole proximity of the dwelling. And we are going to be proposing an easement for that access right there. But that being said, we will fully sleeve that line so that no sewage will get or infiltrate into the new proposed well.
It's hard to tell because it's such a
It's such a tiny
teeny
lot.
tiny
yeah.
lot, as I
Yeah,
said.
yeah.
I said it was mind-boggling to look at this and see how small this lot
Yeah.
is.
So the question so there's two options. One is you seek a full variance because you can't meet the 50-foot setback for, I'm not quibbling about the 49.81, just the to the homeowner's well, right? That's the, sorry. It's very
You're talking
small.
about from the tank to the well.
And so,
The
okay.
septic tank to the well for 147E, which is the
Right.
homeowner's well,
Yeah.
right? I mean, homeowner's septic. That's the only one that does not meet, is not eligible for local upgrade approval, right?
Right. Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
That maybe they go back, go back with the plans and redo the numbers based on this, the 50 feet, and then see what falls off for the LUAs and see where the numbers are at, retake all the measurements, and just come back to the next meeting with the plan. Rather than trying to kind of brainstorm and figure it out right here,
Yeah,
just take them back and redo the math and then, take a closer look at the well and see if it can be moved at all.
Okay. So, we can knock off the 147F and 161 Cadman's Neck from the list for the septic tank to well setback. So you can remove those. and 147D, close enough, we'll round up. So it's just the one. So, yeah, depending on, because you now have, because you're working with a 50-foot distance, not 75 feet, you might be able to relocate it somewhere that will give you the distance from the homeowner's septic tank. In which case then we can approve the request as is, I mean, with the revised plan. If not, then we have to go to the full variance.
Well, I just think, because they did a 50-foot well, they did a 50-foot radius around the well, so just, and the measurements presumably came from that radius. So, and not the 75 that's in the list here.
Right.
So I just, think maybe it's worth double checking, and, maybe nothing's gonna change if the measurements were taken off this 50-foot radius. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Back to the current one.
Right, so, yeah, so I don't know, I don't know if, like, if you moved it, using the paver driveway as the line, like if you just moved it parallel to the edge of the paver driveway, but, moved it in, it's kind of like the northeast direction?
Well, I think we can't
We can't do that,
We
but
can't
I'm
do that right,
saying,
no, I'm just saying we can't try to
figure that out.
solve the
Yeah,
jigsaw.
yeah, no, I agree, yeah.
So would you accept the continuance?
So if we were to move it up, say to the northeast, we're gonna try to stay away from that paver driveway.
Right,
So
yeah.
if you were to go up, you'd still probably hit the corner of that septic tank. So the
Okay.
only logical spot, which is ultimately up to the client, is if you wanted to put it in that top corner. That's something that we would have to discuss.
Well, it's, yeah, I mean, you've notified all the abutters, so you've solved that part of the,
Well, do we have any abutters here? Yes, okay, so.
yeah.
And I just have one question as far as talking about the location of the well. And my understanding is that at a minimum, it has to be 10 feet from the property line.
Yeah,
Right,
But not saying well.
they're asking for relief.
Ideally 25.
I'm sorry, can I ask your name for the record?
Sure, John Allen,
Okay, and what property are you at?
1472.
yeah. So,
The minimum is 10, they're asking for,
I don't think they've asked anything.
We're not asking for
yeah,
anything
yeah,
about the well.
it's just where you
This
could
is
move
about
it.
the well.
Oh,
Okay.
That's why we set everything.
Yeah,
to be
yeah,
as-
yeah.
I'm just concerned about it getting too close to our well.
Right, yeah,
for drawdown.
Exactly.
yeah.
I'm not in opposition, I'm just protecting.
You need to do so. Understood.
So,
And not knowing what kind of well it's going to be.
Garrett, can you answer the question about what kind of well?
Are you drilling a well?
It's just a private drinking well, yeah.
But are you drilling or are you?
Yes,
Are you doing a deep well?
Yep, we'll be plugging and decommissioning the existing one and then putting pretty much the same exact one over in that location.
Okay.
Just as an aside, what happens, well, you have to find another spot. If you're not hitting water, for some reason, you hit shelf or something,
You'd have to come back.
then you have to come back.
By moving it anywhere to the west, you're gonna be running into the Elgin, which poses more issues.
Mm.
Yeah.
And if you
Yeah.
go to the east, you can't meet that paver driveway. And then if you even go, technically, if you were to go into that paver driveway, it wouldn't be 10 feet off. So moving it northeast, you'd still be right on that tank regardless, which is still a 50-foot setback. And you'd still need upgrade approval, so.
Well, if it's less than 50 feet, you're gonna need to do the variance, not the LUA, local upgrade approval, right? Which is, have you notified all the abutters?
Correct.
So,
Yep.
so we can,
I think that they've
Administratively.
already done that.
Okay,
They've
so-
already gone through the only difference in an LUA and a full variance, at least one of the major ones, is notifying all the abutters,
right,
and they've done that.
okay. So, and there's a difference at our end in terms of the decision process, but, so we'll call that administratively complete in terms of your end, notifying all the abutters. But I think we need a corrective plan in any case, because it's the wrong reference for the distance, and three of them will fall off, and then we need the language for it being requested as a variance, if you can demonstrate that you can't move it anywhere else, which you've told us verbally, but it would be helpful to have that in writing.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm asking if you would be willing to accept a continuance, otherwise we have to vote on what we have here, and I'm not sure we want to do that.
11th, 18th.
Yeah.
So our next meeting is the 18th.
Okay.
If you guys want to continue it to the 18th, I can give you a 4:30 appointment,
Okay.
or later, 4:30 on, whatever works best.
Okay. So just verbiage, variance, criteria.
You can follow up with Matt to
Okay.
get specific.
He'll guide you along.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to continue the project to, the hearing, to August 18th at 4:30 PM.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank
And
you.
if I'm right, when you make your submission, you can also, if it's correct, point out that the well is up gradient of the septic tank, which it kind of looks like on the plan.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and so that will address, so there's really two criteria, this manifested justice, and the second part is that there's a level of environmental protection equivalent to what you would if you complied, and I think having the well upgraded would mean that even if there was a breach of the tank, it wouldn't affect the well.
Okay. So all the LUAs are good, but we just need to submit the variance.
Yeah, it sounds like you're saying, you're making the case that you cannot move the well. So you need to just document why you can't move the well.
Well, I can't move the well, yeah.
And as Phil said, that it's upgrading, that will give you, us the documentation to justify a variance.
Okay.
Anything else, Matt?
My suggestion is just redo the measurements from the 50-foot radius, because that 75 feet might just, enumerated in the list might just be a simple
Yeah.
typo.
Yeah, and then if you revise the list, then we can just refer to the list in our approval rather than going through it, so that would be good. So it's good, I'm glad that you put all that setback information in the plan, so you just gotta eliminate the ones that doesn't apply to.
Is it possible for me to remain as an abutter and notified, even though I'll be dropping below I guess now it's 50 feet?
I'm sorry, can you ask
Oh.
your question again?
Can I still be notified?
Yeah.
Well, in terms of
Because you're
getting,
talking about dropping me off of anything that would be, I'm still concerned about the well.
okay, the next hearing is August 18th, so you are welcome to come back at 4:30 on the 18th. We've notified, in essence, by you being here, you've been notified of that next hearing. He does not need to send you another notification of that hearing,
Okay,
because you've
but
been,
I'll be notified if that hearing doesn't happen?
if they request another continuance, I would ask the engineer to notify them. If you,
If things can't get ready in
If you
time.
need to delay the hearing, just notify him so that he doesn't have to
And
come
could-
here
But if we
again
plan
and
for
see our
the-
lovely faces.
the next,
Could you state your
meeting.
address again, please?
147D.
So if we're planning on being here for the next meeting, do we still have to send out all the abutters or?
No.
No, you're-
No, they've been
No.
notified, they had the opportunity to come today, they can contact you if they have any questions, and so on, so,
All right,
and they have your information, so you're all set for today.
perfect. Thank you
Thanks very
guys.
much.
All right, thank you.
One more hoop to jump through, huh?
Okay, I am now calling the 5 PM discussion regarding a temporary tight tank. Bill Cordero for 6 Union Ave, a request to install a temporary tight tank until the existing failed system is replaced. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Phil Cordero, One and Major Associates, representing the applicant of 6 Union, Simmons trustee. Madam Chair, as you read during the public notice, we have a failed septic system on 6 Union Ave. We've had, I believe Matt's been on the property, John Schwartz has been on the property. We need to replace the septic system. A couple of weeks ago, the owner ended up removing the tank, which was potentially leaking. It was noted as leaking as part of some excavation. So actually the tank is gone, and the feeder pipe that was coming out of the tank was also removed at the same time. So we have nothing there. What we are asking for the board's consideration tonight is we are going through, this afternoon, we are going through the steps to design a replacement system within the confines of the bylaw and Title V. We did ask to be on the board's agenda 2 weeks ago. Scheduling didn't allow for that, so we're here this evening. Since then, we have been able to complete our soil testing on site with Mr. Swartz. So we do have some available land area to play with.
Okay.
For those familiar with the property, we directly abut the east branch of the Westport River. We're sandwiched between Route 6, Union Ave, and the Westport River. So we have a number of wetland resource areas on site, including the riverfront, bordering vegetated wetland, and bordering land subject to flooding. So if we start putting all of those puzzle pieces on the plan, it starts whittling down our available area. But we did find one area that did perk. It had passable perks, 20 minutes an inch. So we have something to work with. The owner has a tenant for the building that would like to occupy the building. All permits have been signed off on by every department in town at the moment, except for the health department. So what we were asking for is for the board's consideration to consider under an emergency repair provision under Title V for us to install the tank, which I will call a tight tank, and follow all of the provisions of a tight tank, which would allow for occupancy of the building under a schedule prescribed by this board that we have a certain time to cure, which will then allow us to go forward, design the system, permit the system here with the board, permit the system with conservation, and then also procure the necessary funds to build the system in keeping with the current standards. As we know it from the generally available records, the records on the property are fairly unclear in terms of the original system design and the gallonage. So we are working off of what we know from the assessor record cards for the usage. And as such, we've estimated the usage at 590 gallons per day. In the interim, we'd like to install a 4,000 gallon tight tank. Now, that would be much larger than would be needed under a standard septic design, but obviously what we're trying to do is accommodate a little bit of time in here to do what we need to for occupancy. And, you know, we'd love to work with the board on developing a schedule to address all of those conditions. Title V allows the board to repair, emergency repair and replace certain portions of septic elements, and then enter into a schedule provision with the owner applicant to take care of all of the other matters. So That's what I'd like to discuss this afternoon.
Okay, I'm just gonna, one quick
Yes.
clarification before I turn to Matt.
Mhm.
You said verbally a 4,000 gallon tank, the plan says 5,000, just.
It did, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I did originally put 5,000 gallons on the plan.
Okay.
In full transparency, we were going to suggest to this board to pursue a permanent tight tank on this property. The reason for that is, given the number of environmental resource areas that we have on the property, it is actually our opinion that a tight tank would be the most environmentally responsible solution here. But I understand that Title V wants all feasible alternatives evaluated. And we also got some feedback from the conservation agent that he was not certain that he would support the installation of a tight tank. So we've had to rethink our plan. As part of that, if we had gone simply the tight tank solution, we would have gone with a larger tank. Given that we're looking at it as a stopgap solution, we would request to do 4,000, which is in deference to the plan, and then design the system around it. That tank, though, when a full system goes in place, that 4,000 gallon tank would remain.
Okay.
So we would ultimately have an oversized septic tank at that point.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, but it's, once it's installed, will continue to be used in a different, in the complete system.
That's correct. So with the board's permission, we would install it today or tomorrow as a tight tank with all of the waterproof requirements. We would enter into the license agreement with the septic hauler. We would install a float with an alarm on it, all of the accoutrement that Title V requires for a tight tank. And then once we have a system that is approved and buildable, we would essentially decommission the tight tank by removing the alarms and actually install the outflow pipe and filters, etc., that would go to the rest of the field.
And you had mentioned that the existing tank and pipage has been removed, so does that mean there is no occupancy right now? Because where is the water going?
So the buildings are not occupied presently. They have been renovated, but they are not occupied. And that is our urgency in terms of being here with this board, the board today, which is to allow for occupancy for a tenant that we have lined up for the building. She's here with me this evening, the tenant. She's not the owner, but she has a vested interest in hearing the outcome here. She would like to move on to the property.
I have a question. There's two buildings.
There are two buildings.
Is one building where the two bedrooms are, or is there a bedroom in each building?
So they're the two buildings, the one that's on the corner between Union Ave and Route 6 was identified as residences on the assessor cards. That's the one that had bedrooms. And then the larger building was denoted as dry storage, as warehouse space.
Okay.
And that's how we have been pursuing the calculations to date, which is based on the assessor records. Did that answer the question?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna turn to Matt.
So in terms of the 4,000 gallon tight tank, I have no idea, other than there's some sort of maybe beauty salon or some type of place moving in. We have no enumerated list of what businesses may or may not be moving in. I know that they said they pulled assessors records and it shows 590 gallons a day. But I'd like to know, what the space looks like, maybe what the proposed intended use is, before just saying, okay, a $4,000 gallon tight tank is good. If it's just the one business moving in, and the rest of it's gonna be storage, then I think a 3,000 gallon tight tank would be adequate. But until we get some more information about, the type of businesses moving in or what the space is gonna be utilized for, it's hard to say, what exactly, what size tank is appropriate in the interim.
Could you, I don't think you've mentioned the property owner's name and just what you know of their intentions.
Certainly. So Jessica Simmons, trustee, Jessica and Christopher Simmons, they're the owners of the property.
Okay.
To answer the agent's question, at this point, the only two tenants are the salon owner who's here with me tonight and dry storage for the feed store across the street. They have some pallets on site. Those are the only tenants. That's all we're sizing the system for. In point of fact, we're limiting obviously the size of the tight tank to the gallonage that's established for the property. And then obviously whatever tenancy is there has to work within those limitations, and we have to pump that out. And obviously when we get into the design and we come back in front of you with a fully vetted design, you will require all of that additional detailing to support the design if things are going to change there.
So is it going to be a residential and a salon?
So no, it is not going to be residential and a salon. So at this point, we have, one of the buildings will remain vacant, and the other building will have the salon space in it and the dry storage in it. And that's all we're accommodating at this point.
So it's the building with the dry storage that the salon will go into?
Yes, ma'am. Again, full transparency, I understand the agent's concern.
Director.
We want to answer all of the questions. You know, we have a sensitive timing issue. You know, so we're trying to work with the board, with the town to solve all of those issues, solve the needs for the owner, certainly solve the needs for the tenant who is unhoused at the moment in terms of her business occupation. So we're trying to avoid that hardship and trying to find the solution that can satisfy all parties and all concerns and all environmental concerns that we would need to under the bylaws in Title V.
Okay, questions from the board?
Well, I was just wondering, so there's two things. So do you, like, when would you, assuming, like, when would the tenancies start? Are these like in September 1 they would start? Something like that?
So the direct answer is as soon as we can obviously have this board's approval,
Right,
have the Conservation Commission's approval,
okay,
and physically install the tank. So this particular
Right.
tenant is ready to install it tomorrow, if I could have the tank delivered.
yeah,
But we could tentatively
Right,
say
right.
September 1 with all of those pieces coming together.
right, okay. And then, and is, just to reiterate, or is just asking Matt what would be a reasonable time frame for the completed septic system to be operational? Like, yeah, I think 100 days was mentioned. I don't know if you had a different timetable in mind.
100 days is 30,
3 months.
almost 3 months. I think that 90 days, 90 to 100 days is
Yeah,
an
okay.
okay time frame. But I'm just saying, so we're gonna need a full plan for the tight tank, right? You'll have to submit that so we can see, like anybody else would submit a plan for a tight tank. Application would have to be made. Then we'd have to go out and do our inspections. So I think I just heard you say that if you could have the tank delivered tomorrow and the tenant be in tomorrow, I don't think that's completely feasible. We'll get to it in short order, but we just, certain things we need. Application, a new plan, we'll have to do our inspections, all that.
Yeah.
And to answer that directly, we understand that. We would have submitted all of the various applications several weeks ago in anticipation of the prior meeting, but we were directed that we could only have a discussion with the board and that we should not submit of any formal applications. Otherwise, we would have been happy to give you all of that, stamped plans, everything that you would have needed, but we were directed to have the discussion.
Yeah, because you don't want to do all that if it's not something that we're able to support.
That's correct.
But you still need Concom approval before.
Right, which is why I think, the process would be the applications, the plans, and it would make its way through the system, from us to Concom, back to us, and
But
then,
you've indicated the conservation agent is not favorably disposed to certainly to a permanent tight tank. You have any reaction for a temporary tight tank?
So I wouldn't speak on his behalf.
No, I'm not asking to.
Our discussion through email was centered around that we believed it was a really good environmental solution for the wetland resource areas. A permanent tank, the owner's expense, we take all the septage away. Now there's zero discharge adjacent to the Westport River. We actually suggested that as a good solution for the site. His response was that he simply wasn't in favor. So I couldn't say whether his opinion would be different to a temporary solution or not.
Because any approval we would do if we did one would be contingent upon Concom.
We understand. Understood.
Questions?
I guess what are the, this is a 2-bedroom, it is also going to be a business. So does that change what our expectations are in terms of the design?
Well, so I guess not at the moment, because you have the building where the business and the storage is gonna be. Then you have this other building, it's close to the Route 6 on, that's just vacant. And I think that's the 2-bedroom house.
It was 4, according to the assessment.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So it's a vacant house, and I don't know if they have any plans to renovate it or put people in there or not, but if they do, down the road, then they would have to disclose that and upgrade things appropriately. But for right now, from what they're telling us, there's no plans for that, so just the business and the dry storage, they would design their system for, right now.
It looks like it's connected to both, though. I mean, seeing that incorrectly.
No, you're not incorrectly. It is connected. Both buildings are connected.
Yep.
The current system, or what was the current system, both buildings were connected into the single tank.
But one of those buildings is vacant, and
you're proposing at this point not to connect that building?
So I was for plumbing purposes. So because we're going to be installing the tank, both of the discharge points are there. They were exposed when the other tank was removed. I was proposing to connect them into the new tight tank, but there would be no flow coming through that pipe. That was simply a matter of mechanics during construction installation to connect those two. Obviously, whatever happens as the next step, down the line, hopefully a little bit, a couple of steps down, to your agent's point, we have to provide you all of the documentation on the flow for the full system design. That would be factored into it. Given the size and complexity of the property, both of those buildings would go to the common tank. They would be pumped to a different leaching field elsewhere on the property. So those two structures will sort of be in lockstep forever.
How long has it been abandoned?
long time. I've never seen anything there. Just my suggestion would be not to connect that building in and until there's a definite plan, and then we'll be on top of it then. If they connect it all together now, we kind of don't know what's going on. So
I think connection can happen later.
Don't we have something about how long the building is not occupied and how that changes what's expected for the septic?
Do we have files on that, you're asking?
No, don't we have, if something is considered abandoned and we're going to put a septic in, isn't there a different requirement?
Oh, I think it's under the building renovation regulation. If a house has been abandoned for more than 3 years, it's considered new construction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, that's why I'm asking, how long that's been.
Oh, I think it's been abandoned way a lot
If the system was
longer.
going to be connected, then that needs to be taken into consideration.
Okay. So if there is inclination to grant a temporary tight tank, what maximum of 4,000 gallons, 3,000 gallons, and no connection, I think, to the currently unoccupied building. What other? I mean, I guess this is, I'm a little reluctant because it's, we're being kind of pressured to move this forward expeditiously because of a building that's been renovated, but whoever took out the tank and, can't be used, the building can't be used, but that's not our fault. So I don't want to feel rushed.
The other,
Yeah, I mean, if you stepped, we stepped back and thought about it, it's, so it's kind of like a template where we took it out of the particular situation and that just someone had an existing building on their site and then they were doing an upgrade of their facility and they said, okay, so we're gonna submit a design, like the normal situation where you would submit a full design plan for the, for the leach field and the septic tank. But instead, kind of what you're doing is saying, okay, we're going to just go first with essentially the septic tank, but we really wanted to call it a tight tank, and so that we can then
Start using the building.
start using it right away, and then we'll add the SAS on afterwards, and then the switch will be thrown, and the question, and then you characterized it as an emergency, but it's not. And I'm probably mixing apples and oranges with another case. That is, it's not a situation where where you have existing tenants and they have a failed system and there's a sewage outbreak. And someone says, okay, the solution is we're going to do this big upgrade, but meanwhile the tenants can't use their toilets. So if we put this in first, then that in my mind is an emergency. We're solving a public health problem. This seems more like we're solving a different kind of problem, which is someone wants to start a business. That's a perfectly good motivator. You want to lease your place. That's that's a fine motive. Nothing the matter with it. It's just that it's just not the way normally business is done. I mean, the question is, so the normal way would be, okay, fine, give us a septic design plan, and then go ahead and put it in, and then you guys will be all ready to go. And I'm just wondering, it's not what you're proposing, necessarily. Well, I don't know if it violates the regulations. I mean, I assume we could accommodate it, but what makes this unique so that the normal course, we wouldn't do the normal course? And to me, I have to say, it's your level of comfort about doing it, because it seems like overall it's a good solution. If you're okay with the details of this, then we could, go ahead and do it. But I think
I just have a couple.
be comfortable maybe when you see an actual application come in.
Yeah.
As to how it's going to roll out, because it's not the normal way of doing business.
I just had a question about details then. So where the septic tank was, is that where you're proposing to put the tank/tight tank and
Yes.
a temporary solution?
Yes.
But the leaching field, if you put the full system in, is going to be on the opposite side of the building, up on the road.
Yes.
So is the plan to take this temporary tight tank, reconvert it into a septic tank, and somehow pump it down and around the corner over to the new leaching field? Or are you going to move that tank over to the other side of the building?
No, the tank, the existing tank, the one that was removed, was out behind the house. We would put this tank directly in its spot. As part of the formal design, the leaching field is going to be remote, given where the soil conditions are, the water table, etc. We would install a pump chamber post-septic tank to move the effluent to the leaching field on the other side of the building. So the tank would stay. We would not move it once it was installed.
Okay.
Where's the well?
They have a well now connected now, the water is enough over here.
So the well is sandwiched between the buildings closest to Union Avenue. So we've had to work, so one of the complexities obviously is the separation of leaching fields to wells, both ours and neighbors. We're negotiating that in terms of the placement of the septic. And then layer on top of that the wetland resource areas that I referenced.
So I guess to answer Phil's question, my level of comfort would be wanting to see the application. I would want to see a full design plan for the tight, proposed temporary tight tank. Run it through its process, and then with the 90 to 100 day timeline, we would get a new application, new proposed plans for into the septic system, leaching field, tank, pump chamber. So that would be my comfort level with all of this.
So the 90 to 100 days is the timeline to get the plan, or the timeline for the
Completed operation.
Completed project,
Yeah,
yeah.
Okay, I just want to be clear on that.
So we can talk schedule,
Yeah, yeah.
but we should be realistic with each other. You know how town permitting works. To have a system designed and approved by both boards,
Mhm.
and then the ability to install it within,
Mhm.
if we say 90 days, it doesn't take much for a meeting to get continued, holidays to kick in, that
Mhm.
may be
Yeah.
aggressively tight, I'll be honest.
Mhm.
You know, so if you said 90 to, 100 days to have it approved, that there might be something there. But to have it physically installed and online,
Okay, from approval to installation,
Well,
what time frame do you need? 'Cause you were talking about financing as well, so there's a whole other can of worms that I'm not comfortable with leaving
Right.
loosey-goosey.
no, and we don't want to leave it loosey-goosey either. Obviously, the board has the opportunity to establish a schedule, which we have to follow. And then if we need modification, we come back in front of the board and tell you why, and you would then choose to modify it or not. My loose pencil schedule for your consideration would be the 90 days that I just referenced for design and permitting. And then the owner does have to seek financing for the system. We're anticipating, in addition to the tank, which we will outsource immediately, we will have a pump chamber. We are also reviewing whether it needs to be nitrogen sensitive or not, given the buffer zones that we have, so there's a cost associated with that. So I was looking for somewhere in the 6-month range, in totality.
I don't know that 90 to 100 days is too aggressive, but I would like to stay, my recommendation to the board would be to have a bit of an aggressive time schedule, and if they run into challenges, they can come back and ask for an extension.
Okay, so we have a time, it sounds like we're trying to figure out a way to, go outside the normal approval process to expedite this by allowing the tight tank to, for the tenant to be able to move in sooner. If that's the way we're going to go, we need to be very explicit in the conditions. Let me ask a question, and I know you were saying we needed to see the plan for the tight tank before approving it. Is that something that can be director approved, or does that come back before us because of the same environmental conditions that we have to, in other words, installing a tight tank in that location would it require any, knowing that it's going to become a septic tank, regular septic tank, local upgrade approvals or anything like that?
I think they
here's
meet
what
the,
I would like. I would like you to come back with, and say, we'll put the tight tank in, and my client has gotten financing, and here it is. Prove to us you have financing, because otherwise, what's going to happen is that you will have someone in there who has set up their business, you will have this tight tank, and you will say, gee, my client can't get financing. And I don't think that's an acceptable condition for us. So I'm less concerned about the construction timeline. I need to see that he's achieved financing, whatever would, so that would be my precondition.
So I understand the concern there, and I understand the order of operations that you're establishing. I guess I would suggest alternatively, the owner is aware of these concerns.
Yeah.
And he is certainly motivated to do all of these steps. And I'm here suggesting all of these things.
Right.
But the ability to get the financing lined up to give you some sort of bank commitment, I don't know that that's achievable either.
Yeah, well, yeah, I realize that. No, I mean, I understand there's a bit of the horns of the dilemma, but
Right.
I think what you're articulating is that we don't want to be put in this position where we have allowed the cart to go down the path, and you say, oopsie, and we're...
And we come back and claim hardship
Right.
down.
Yeah.
But we're here up front saying that would not be the case.
Right.
And we wouldn't
Right.
come back and say to you, hey, this hardship that you helped us create, I'm paraphrasing, I'm not putting any responsibility on the board.
Yeah.
We need that to continue. So the condition of your permit for the tight tank could absolve you of that. Saying the board is conditioning the installation of the tight tank under the provision that unless a full and complete design is rendered infeasible, the tight tank would be decommissioned by fill in the blank. And the repercussions to any tenancy within the building remain the responsibility of the owner and not the Westport Board of Health.
But I don't understand what would happen if they can't secure financing. Either we have to leave them.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I'm not sure whether we could just say, okay, strip them of all systems and they can't operate.
Right.
So
He would have to
Position.
he would have to evict his tenants
Yeah.
and deal with the repercussions of that. I don't mean to say that and scare the young woman behind me, but that's the reality of the situation, which puts the same incentivization on the owner to get this done as the board wants to get done without having any, dealing with the repercussions of it. We are aligned in the same motivation.
Why isn't the owner here?
So scheduling, as I mentioned to you, we were trying to get on the agenda 2 weeks ago. We had submitted the request through Nancy, and for whatever reason, we submitted the week prior. We did not get on the agenda, and we got pushed to this one. So he's out of town tonight. He would have been here sitting with me 2 weeks ago, but unfortunate timing is such that he couldn't be here today.
Okay.
I don't feel prepared to vote.
So we don't, if I may, we don't need a vote.
Okay.
What I
it's just a
need is an
discussion.
understanding of, through this discussion, that will permit me to submit an application tomorrow for the installation of this tight tank for this board to approve under all of everything that we've discussed here tonight. So this is not up for a vote, just to clarify.
So, we would anticipate having this for approval in 2 weeks at the August 18th meeting. And we have time to think about what kinds of conditions we'd put in. I'm like, can't connect to the other building, time frame, the sort of hold harmless piece of the, if something goes south for the homeowner, the property owner, has the responsibility around you know, the tight tank. I guess what I would say is the tight tank can only be used in its permitted state for a limited period of time, so that if you can't get financing, you can't whatever, then, but does that put us in this position of, it's a failed system, they have to have something? I mean, we have to give them the manifest injustice part. I'm kind of
So,
confused.
so the other thing I would want to, so financing, responsibilities, hold harmless, those are all very real things, and I would want you to consider them. But the other one that I do need to make sure I vocalize and we carry forward is technical feasibility to put a system on the site. We need to advance that. It needs to be approved here.
Right.
So if between this board, your design review consultant, or John, and then ultimately conservation, at anywhere along the line, if those are then deemed infeasible to build a system here, then technically in accordance with Title V, we have proven infeasibility, which would then allow a tight tank because we have no other alternative,
Right.
and sewer doesn't exist here. And I only mention it as a what-if scenario,
Right.
such that if we have to circle back on it, I don't want to say we baited and switched against the board. That's not what our goals are.
I think what I'm trying to convey is that the temporary nature of the tight tank is going to be time limited.
Mhm.
And either you prove that you can't do anything else, and the only alternative to fixing the failed system is a formal tight tank approval,
Mhm.
not a temporary tight tank approval.
But you can't, but it's, no, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I mean,
I'm just thinking.
I mean, there's, in order to get, or, sorry, approval of a tight tank may be granted only to eliminate a failed on-site system when no other feasible alternative to upgrade the system in accordance with et cetera, exists. And so we're basically not allowed for someone to come in and say, I want a tight tank, I don't want to build an SAS.
That's correct.
Yeah, and so at that level, it would require a variance for us just to grant this. So it's almost beyond how I characterized it in a way of, you're asking us to prove a tight tank and that will be converted to a septic tank, but if the bigger plan falls through because you can't get financing, then I guess we would say, okay, well, you have to remove the tight tank. It's not allowed to be there. And then you would have to deal with the,
Well,
it's very, and I don't know.
So
The more we talk, the more anxious I get about it. I mean, that's what's happening to me. Even though I understand, because we don't know about the finance, it's less that, to me, the timeline is not so critical, assuming, but the fact that it seems to be unclear that there could be financing involved means, and then if it doesn't happen, like if it says, the owner says, I'm not removing the tight tank, then, then we have litigation. And I don't want to do that.
we don't want, we have no wish for that either.
Right, I know you don't, and I feel, and I don't, anyway, I don't want to be, it could all work great, and so I don't want to totally throw cold water on it. I'm just indicating how big an ask this is. This is a really big ask, I think. It really is. No one has ever come before us and asked for this before and said, I don't really know if I have I don't really know if I can get financing to do this. That's a real, that's a lot of trust that's involved of people's intentions, and so, and think the way to address that is to come up with to start anyways, to come up with a lot of information for Matt about what this whole thing is gonna look like and what the timeline is gonna be, and, you know, express a level of commitment, not in word, but on paper and deed, that I would feel Matt would come back and say, I feel comfortable this thing's gonna happen. You know, and then we won't be left holding the bag, and we won't be in a position to be telling you, well, evict your tenant. You know, the Board of Health told us to evict the tenant. You can speak.
I can. I think the whole, so the owner has, what?
You should say your name,
I'm
so.
sorry, my name's Mary Paradise, and I'm.
You can come up to table,
I
too.
prefer not to.
Okay.
I'd rather be a fly on
She
the
didn't
wall.
want to
I
come
don't
up.
know the owner from a hole in the wall, but I can tell you that everything that that gentleman, who I actually only met face to face twice, has said he was going to do, he has done to a T, and things that I would not have done. And the reason why he is probably asking for all of this is because I managed to jump ahead with myself and 2 other girls that were to come with me. I had all the sign-offs from every other department, and here I was ready to move in, thinking that I had my certificate of occupancy, I was good to go, and then all of a sudden, bam, we were told there was a problem with the septic, and now I have managed to put 2 girls out of business single-handedly by saying, yes, we are coming here, you can leave where you're at, and now the owner is like, I'm sorry, and let's try to remedy this to help you, because I don't want to put families out of work, like
Right.
what just happened. So it's myself and 3 other, we make 3, myself and 2 other girls who are now not working out. So that's why this owner is doing what he can out of the goodness of his heart. I literally met this man twice, and the only business that's in the building. That's it, and so other than like.
Right, well, that, yeah. I appreciate that, thank you.
So hard.
Yeah.
Right, so if I could echo what she's saying, obviously I've known the owner for several years, and I would vouch for his character. If he were here, I think he could convey to you his trustworthiness. I can't answer those questions for you. But you would ask, you know, reasonable assurances, and what I would invite you to do is between now and next week, just go drive by the site and look at the renovations that he's done with the building. He has no desires to see all of the money that he's pumped into that fall by the wayside.
Right.
So again, he's motivated for everything that she just outlined. He's motivated for everything that he had been done over years before meeting this young woman.
Mm-hmm.
So it is there. And were it not for, he is motivated to the point where he just wants to get it done and solve the problem.
Right.
When the other tank was noted that it was leaking, his urgency figured, I could just take it out, put a new tank in, let's move on. And that was not the case. So had he not taken the tank out of the ground, I would be here with a different story to tell you, which is I have a failed system where I simply want to replace the tank, and then while that tank is repaired, which can be done underneath the Title V, we then go through the rest of the permit. The bellwether that I'm ringing here is the words tight tank, which I understand have challenges associated with them, and there's uniqueness here, granted, and we're trying to solve all of these problems with a little bit of creative thinking, but working within the framework of the bylaws of Title V, which we believe is rights to approve.
Okay.
So I think I like Phil's idea. Let's get what we need. Let me review it to where we're comfortable, and then come back to the next meeting and either discuss it or make a decision, or however the board feels at that time.
Okay,
Okay.
so, you're prepared, I'm sure, given the
Well,
sense of urgency that's all the way around.
The plan that you have is going to be the same plan that you're going to get changed for that, say for that number is going to go from 5 to 4. That is the same plan. Those are the commitments that are required under a Title V tight tank. The only thing I need to get for you is the agreement with the septic hall. That needs to be provided. We will get that. So that
And an O&M.
and an O&M, which is to pump out the tank. So you're going to, those are the 2 additional bits that we would have provided had this been an official application.
If I could just make one additional, maybe condition. I have yet to be let inside the building to see what exactly is happening in there. I would like to get in to see exactly how it's laid out and what the potential is for anything, businesses that might be in there.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so that, I assume, can occur within the next 2 weeks?
I would imagine, I can't speak to
Sure.
why Matt hasn't been let in. I don't know the reasoning or why he would or would not be allowed in.
Okay.
I defer.
Okay, but you've heard some of our other, there's some squeamishness here with setting us up for failure or for holding of the bag, if you will.
Hold harmless.
Right.
Yeah,
And it's not,
anyways.
I'm not saying
so-
that's bad intentions, I'm just saying.
No,
we end up-
but we need to protect the town.
Understood.
And the
Yeah, yeah.
resource areas, so there will be some additional conditions, I'm imagining.
So before you dismiss me, if you indulge me, I just want to make sure our play together is correct. Because timing is key for us. I'm going to make an application to the board officially.
Yes.
In that application, it will be for a 4,000 gallon temporary tight tank and all the accoutrement that go with
Yeah.
just that. We need to provide the contract with the septic hauler and the O&M that Matt referred to. The board wishes to not have the connection to the second building. I will remove that. Is there anything else that gives the board collective agita that would somehow not result in a vote at the next meeting that I could proactively be aware of and address through the application?
What would be helpful from my perspective is your timeline for evaluating the feasibility of traditional septic system. Knowing the DNITE status, nitrogen sensitive criteria. Those kinds of things to have us, because you're asking for this temporary solution, we want to have as much detail as you can provide in terms of what your look forward for the permanent solution.
Okay.
Anything else?
And we have already advanced the soil test pits, which was the biggest key, is to identify whether we even have some viability.
Right.
We have a glimmer.
Okay. Any other things, guidance
No.
you want to
I mean,
send them off with?
Yeah,
You've heard all of our.
I have.
That's fine. I think it'd be worthwhile which I can do with Chris, to drill down as to what his reservations are, the conservation agent.
Phil is on the Conservation Commission as
And,
well.
and just to clarify, it says, is this property all owned by the same owner?
Yes.
Because it says, we were looking at a 2-bedroom repair. There's no bedrooms in that building. The bedrooms are in the other building.
So I'm sorry to interrupt. Both buildings and both properties are owned by the same owner.
It's all one property.
Right, but
It's all one property for purposes of zoning because it's the same owner. Yes.
I just don't know, Matt, if there would be a different way of, because it's a business versus a home, whether or not there would be a difference in how it would be requested. Because when businesses apply, it says business. Somewhere it refers to a business. This is not referring to a business.
You mean on our application, in our fee schedule, there's a commercial application
Yeah,
and a fee separate than if it was residential.
Yeah, I just think that,
Yeah.
for me, there needs to be a clarification that it's not a residential 2-bedroom, but a commercial.
And on the application, they would check
Okay.
commercial and write it, and we would write it. I just think, again, I want to see what's brought in. I need to look at it, I need to get into the building before I have any, I don't want to say to the board, okay, yeah, that sounds good, or just want to review everything.
I think there must be another meeting.
There's one at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Have you got what you need? Anything else? We're almost done.
Hey, Gary.
Yes.
Okay, so access to Mike, for Matt, to the building, and the documentation, the application and the other documentation.
Yes.
And just so you know, we convene on this in 2 weeks.
Okay, and just so you know, do we have a time for him for the meeting? For
Provided everything's in good order, and it would be the 18th at 4:40.
Provided what was in good order, I'm sorry.
All the stuff that you're submitting, gonna submit.
Okay,
Thanks for your time.
thank you.
Thank you for your input.
And just for your information, Matt is the director of the Public Health Department, not an agent here.
Oh,
Refer to
I
him as-
refer to him as agent, sorry.
But that's,
I apologize.
that's,
Director.
okay, so we want a
Okay.
motion to adjourn, or we have any,
We
okay.
do, I think we don't have any other topics. Unanticipated anything.
I'm sure there's a couple of things we could have talked about, but there's another meeting waiting to get in, so.
Okay, so I move that we adjourn this meeting at 6:03 p.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you.